feel like there's no way to answer these questions in 5 minutes. Um, but I will try. So for chapter 14, um, violent crime can cause people to experience PTSD, depression, anxiety, and that can lead to coping mechanisms that aren't super helpful, like substance abuse. There's the radiant impact of violent victimization. It's kind of where the impact of the incident radiates from the personal to the social to the vocational to the communal. And then it did talk about the mean world syndrome, which I think they kind of connected to the overabundance of violent content. And since like this, just how much that's sensationalized and just ever present in our media can cause people to feel like the world isn't safe. But I think the same can be true if you experienced violent crime. Is you may think that you may have more of a feeling that the world is less safe than it actually is because of that trauma. And working with someone who's experienced something like this, the textbook talked about the short-term effects and helping people to regain some autonomy over their physical and physiological symptoms like panic attack or upset stomach or just those responses that are almost autonomic. And it touched on some techniques like progressive muscle relaxation and cued relaxation and centering and mindfulness as a way to help those affected. And then it talked a little bit about constructive confrontation. So just kind of managing the symptoms may not be enough to get resolution to, there may need to be a narrative component or sort of a experiential exposure component that might help people get to some integration into a new worldview and get some closure. So for second question around the stigma of survivors of suicide and homicide, that stigma is definitely determined by the context of how someone died, and the family can be blamed for not preventing someone from making bad decisions or for maybe not raising someone the right way. I think people like to attribute some control that or some contribution that family members had to the way this person died as maybe a reason as a way to sort of explain the loss. And that can be very isolating for that person or those family members, in that they don't feel like they have a platform to grieve because there's some shame attached to it. And a way to help folks through that stigma would be, I thought that CBT techniques can help people examine those thoughts and feelings and beliefs around the death and the stigma, and hopefully decouple the grief that they're experiencing from the context of the death. And then family therapy, families, if there is like a suicide or someone dies in a way that might have some societally, morally murky connections, the family might not want to talk about it and may avoid discussing it, and family therapy helps to facilitate that dialogue and externalize some emotions that may be simmering under the surface, like there might be some anger or disappointment in the deceased person that's hard to express without maybe a group therapy, family therapy setting. Okay. Question 3 around counseling intervention from the podcast. I love this podcast. I have some experience in working with folks who are experiencing SI. It's very difficult. There was so much that I really resonated with. I think the main thing was not just trying to help this person survive through the night or the day or whatever, which is important, but also giving them something to live for. I know that a lot of times I have been in that position of just asking the questions that need to be asked, and it feels very impersonal. And so I love the Hope Kit as like a preventative measure, a coping ahead measure, something that they can add to on a daily basis and revisit. Because I think when people are in that headspace, it's very difficult to conjure all the good things about their life and the potential good in the future. It's the mind is very much shifted towards what's wrong and how there's no hope. So having something to access to remind them in that moment is, the fact that it's coming from them is a lot more powerful than me saying, well, what about this and what about that and what about this? I think it's very easy just to not want to listen to someone else in that moment, and to read their own words can bring them back to a time where they were in a different mindset with a different perspective, and may give a little bit of hope that's necessary to shift their thinking in that moment. And then question 4. 3 aspects of working with grieving children that were surprising. I guess it shouldn't be surprising, but like the sheer amount of juvenile of people in the juvenile justice system who have experienced the loss of a loved one was pretty shocking. I think it said 90%. I think it makes a lot of sense based on sort of that grief leading to trauma, leading to mental health issues like PTSD and depression and anxiety, and if they don't have support, that could lead to issues in school and coping that may lead them down a path towards the juvenile justice system. Yeah, I think I really appreciated. I think this was from the Brene Brown video, but I think the quote was, or I'm paraphrasing, that rarely can a response make something better, but just being there and connecting and not trying to cure what's going on, but just trying to be a companion in that grief. That really resonates with my experience working with folks with these issues, and I think it certainly would apply to working with younger folks as well. And then the last one was, just how the consistency with which at every age group there is a reflexive tendency to internalize and blame themselves for the death. I found that to be surprising, and I've just had questions about why that persists throughout all of the sort of age ranges that were covered, and it was helpful to know that that's something to always be sure to reiterate, that it's not their fault, even though that seems a bit nonsensical to say that, because from our perspective it's clearly not their fault, but to know that that's going on and to address it, I appreciated that information. Okay, 9 minutes, 10 minutes. All right, bye.